patch, which is inspired by the sequencer of the Moog Labyrinth synthesizer, which has recently been launched, and I found this principle rather inspiring and thought I could use it within the Droid system for my own purposes. So here is what I've came up with. And so the core idea is that you have two sequencers, each of 8 steps, or bits as they call them, and these are generative sequences, which are essentially similar to what a Turing machine does, but they are a bit more than this, because they are also able to interact with each other and modulate their active bits. Let's start with something new from scratch. We have here selected the first sequencer, and we can now activate the first 3 steps maybe, and on the second sequencer maybe something more, and each sequencer outputs a trigger signal, an envelope which is a percussion envelope with a 0 attack and a variable decay, which you can adjust here, making it longer or shorter. Then we have a pitch output and 2 additional outputs, which I will explain in a minute. And you hear now only a single note. Oh yeah, by the way, I've patched up the outputs to the neutron from Behringer. The 2 sequences modulate the 2 oscillators, and they activate the envelopes activate the VCA and the VCF. So now we only hear a single note, and then I have here 2 pots that open the range that the CV notes can deviate from the base note by plus minus 3 volt. And we can also quantize this and select a root node and a scale. And if I now activate the corrupt button that activates the random generation of new CV values, and we hear the notes are slowly changing. This corrupt knobs acts in a way that the left half only will choose new notes on the active bits, whereas when you increase it further beyond noon to the right side, then also the active bits will change on and off, and as soon as you found something pleasant, you can set this to 0 again, then the sequence is frozen. You have this, of course, also for the second sequence. And you can, of course, also manually activate, as I've shown before. And another way to change the CV or the pitch is that you make a long press on individual notes. have a CV input to modulate the corrupt pods. What else can we do? Yeah, these two pods here determine the level of the envelopes 1 and 2, so we can make it a stronger depth or a shallower depth. Then here we have the mixer knob that mixes the two sequences, or the envelopes of the two sequences together. So at the center both are will send out signals, and here we can only hear the left one or only the right one, and the first one is deactivated, which is a nice way then to dial in and mix together the two sequences. And then, of course, the sequences can have their own length, which actually is not limited to the 8 bits, but it can go beyond as high as 16, and if you do this, then the sequence or the new steps beyond the 8 steps will be the bits of the other sequence, so they are chained together in a way. And the funny thing is then how they can interact with each other. We can make one sequence flipping the bits of the other sequence. So we're now seeing the second sequence, and these two are the active bits. And if we activate that those two bits influence or flip the bits of the first sequence, we can activate this. Then you see that those two, every time the second sequence sends a signal here, these two change their state. And if we don't want to make this static, then we could change the length of the second sequence, maybe from an 8-step to a 7-step sequence. We can do this just like this. Now the sequence is shorter, and if we go back to the first one, now we see that every time the sequence flips over, different bits are activated and deactivated here, which makes the whole thing rather dynamic. Then the envelope outputs, they have attenuators actually, so you can also reverse them. And the two different outputs here are, one is the pitch of the first sequencer, which you can see here on the scope, and added to this the first envelope, and this is routed to the filter color frequency, and you can, as I said, these are attenuators, so you could also invert the envelopes. I have a modulation going here. Now it's better. we can also save our creations. With a long press you have 7 slots here available. So if we mess around with the pitch signal, and we want to go back, what else can we do? We can do the bit flipping also with external CV. So I use marbles to send a trigger, and now we can see that if we open this bias here, that every time marble sends a trigger, bits are turned on and off. And we can also modulate the decay envelope. Which now becomes shorter and longer. And we can also rotate the sequences. Say we have only those 3 here, and then we can, every time we press a button, we shift this sequence to the back and it flips to the beginning and again. Now we have set this to 7 steps. I increased it again to 8 steps, so you can see the rotation better. Yes, the last output here is a sum of the 2 envelopes, which are of course also affected by the mixer here. And because I have one envelope routed to the filter cutoff frequency, but the VCA is triggered by both envelopes, you can hear that even though the neutron is a monosynth, it sounds like almost having 2 independent voices here. start something